Hey, welcome back to another episode of Bros Who Know. After we shot our previous one on really this girl getting beat down on the bus, Rich and I were talking about, we really got to talk about not just what's going on, but how you can protect yourself. So again, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Dr.Jeff LaCure once again with my podcast partner, the Dark Knight of podcasts, the Batman of podcasts, Richard Yancey. And we're going to spend a little time with you talking about really how you protect yourself when we're not politically correct. How do you protect yourself from the crazies? Rich, how do you protect yourself from crazy people stabbing people in the neck when you're in a wheelchair in a restaurant? How do we do it?
Well, he should have been packing, I think, first of all.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you're in the wheelchair, if you're at a cafe, try to face towards the door. Be aware of your surroundings because people are getting crazy out there.
That's right.
Jeff, but my question to you is, why now? I don't think this was like this before the coronavirus epidemic.
Well, again, you know me, I'm a big fan of follow the money. I know it's a lot about corrupt power, but from a sort of a systemic standpoint, when you don't put people in jail for minor or medium infractions, or you give them cashless bail, guess what? They think, hey, I can do it again. So we have two kinds of criminals out there, Rich. We have ones that are very thoughtful. They know what they're doing. They're not crazy. They might be a sociopath, but they're not crazy. They know what they're doing. They know it's wrong. And as you said last time, they don't care. The dude who stabbed the guy in the neck, he's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He's crazy. And I don't want to get long-winded on this, so I'm going to be super brief on this point. If you try to get substance abuse treatment right now, sometimes you have to wait 6 months. If you're mentally ill and you want treatment, or you need a residential program, or you need a hospitalization, you might have to wait 3 months. And so we're talking about, we want to be a warm and loving country, but we're not very warm and loving to the people who need it most.
Right.
And we now have this chronic epidemic, Rich, of homeless people. And what we're starting to see is a lot of the homeless people are veterans. A lot of the homeless people, by the way, I can't believe we treat veterans that way, who gave you and I freedom. And a lot of homeless people are mentally ill. And we're seeing now on video that a lot of these homeless people with substantial mental illness are doing some crazy shit.
Crazy.
And they're back out on the street the next day.
Right, crazy. So I want to talk. So how do we protect ourselves? So listen, if you're on the subway, okay, get off your phone.
Yes.
Don't
Good
be
idea,
on
Rich.
your phone when you're on the subway because you need to make sure that someone's not going to push you off to the rails. So what you want to do is you want to position yourself, get close to a wall, be around some people, look for other people that's looking for some trouble. Because many times you see a guy, especially on the surveillance, he's looking for a person that's occupied doing something, right? That's next to the edge in the subway, especially in New York, and he pushes them off. Another thing you have to do, like I said, you have to, once you go into an establishment, you got to find out where the exits are. You have to have an exit strategy, and you have to be vigilant of your surroundings, and you have to know that it could be you because there's always going to be victims out there.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Rich, I'm going to throw out something that's probably going to create quite a bit of controversy. But it's true.
All right, let me hear it.
50% of all violent crime in our country, 50%, that's half, it's committed by 13% of the population. So when we talk about protecting ourselves, we also have to be somewhat leery without stereotyping, because that's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
50% of all crime, of all violent crime, is committed by 13% of the population. That's a fact. So we also have to be aware of where we're at and who we're with.
Right.
Right? We have to be sort of educated. And quite frankly, I wonder how people in Philadelphia and Chicago and other large urban cities even have a shot of protecting themselves because people just pull up to each other and shoot first and ask questions. And when's the last time, by the way, we ever hear that on the news, right?
Yeah,
about another inner city shooting where 12 wonderful young children got killed because people don't value life. So not only do we have to figure out ways to protect ourselves, we also have to accept who is perpetrating the majority of violent crime in America.
That's
and
it.
what I
That's
just
it. That's
said, it's not easy for people to hear.
Right.
People are going to be angry at me. People are going to say I'm stereotyping. I'm just stating fact.
Yeah, that's a little different. That's a whole different problem.
It sure is, isn't it?
Yeah, I was talking about like the person that just get up, brush their teeth, had their coffee, donut, gave their little kid a kiss goodbye, hugged their wife goodbye, got on the T stop and got pushed into the
By
off the
whom?
ledge.
By whom?
And usually it's a homeless person that's a homeless
Frequently?
person. Yeah, frequently. I'm talking, especially in the New York area. But at this point, I'm telling you, it seemed like it's become an epidemic. And they all, what's crazy? When you look at these videos, and maybe we should put a video up. Want to put a pause? We'll find the video.
Sure.
When you put up these videos, they all have this glare in their eyes.
Yeah, they do.
You know what I mean? They almost like their lack of empathy, lack of
They don't care anymore.
like everything.
Yeah,
Like they
don't
just
care anymore.
like zombies almost.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they just don't care. And that's like I said, this thing is about how to protect yourself from the crazy. But look, I could be a victim out there. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
I can't protect myself from behind me. You know what I mean?
Crazy's hard to defend yourself
Because
from
there's no motive.
There's no motive.
The other thing, what you were talking about, sometimes there's motive. Like, you're talking about like, gangs that have, they're protecting their own gang. Someone jumped their friend, so they went out there and, protected. I'm talking a lot of that stuff. There's motive there, but this crazy stuff that's happening in New York, Boston, people getting their Rolex.
Well, here's one, and you hear this a lot, and it infuriates me because we're being told a lie. So there's a lot of this Stop Asian Hate, which, by the way, I hope any caring human being would absolutely care that anybody was the victim of violent crime, regardless of their ethnicity.
Right.
But what they don't report is when you see the victim of some of these hate crimes against Asians or Asian Americans, again, the majority of the perpetrators look the same. But they don't like to share the pictures of the perpetrator. What they try to highlight is that there's another ethnic group that's doing it. And I'm not saying all ethnic groups don't commit violent crimes. Clearly they do.
Right.
However, there's one ethnic group that commits 50% of all the
Well,
violent crimes,
let me ask you,
and 75% of the crimes against Asian Americans.
let me
But
ask you-
what the media won't report is what the ethnicity is of the criminal.
Right.
You know why? Because it doesn't support the narrative.
Probably.
And the narrative is that there's one ethnic group in this country that is really bad, that oppresses people, that is all about power and control. They don't have love and compassion in their heart. And I hope the viewers have noticed, I haven't mentioned an ethnic group yet, but you know what two ethnic groups I just described. Why? Because you're informed.
My question to you was this. Because you just brought up about the Asian hate, okay?
Right.
So the people that commit these heinous crimes on the Asians, right?
Mm-hmm.
They say that they have mental illness. My question to you is, can you have someone that has mental? Can you have so many people, different people,
Mm-hmm.
all right, with mental illness commit the same kind of crime? Isn't that a little
It's
strange?
epidemic. It's scary. I want to
doesn't make it-
highlight
it doesn't
again
make it- it
that the
doesn't make
majority of
sense to me.
mentally ill don't commit violent crimes. However, many violent crimes are committed by the mentally
Right.
ill.
So I know, but how do you fix something like that?
Well, I tell you, Rich, I have two sons who are law enforcement professionals. And I'm pretty sure they're law enforcement professionals because they had a disciplined father. I believe that, by the way, and a very loving mom. However, here's what I know, is until we say no more, we're not going to tolerate violence. You do something violent, we lock your ass away. See, we're like, oh, we'll give you another chance. Oh, you can't pay the bill? Go ahead, or pay the bail, we'll let you out there. Here's the deal. I have never, ever, ever contemplated carrying a gun, Rich. Ever. Ever. Am I pro Second Amendment? Oh, absolutely. Right? I believe that we should have the right to bear arms. Absolutely. But I've never thought about it. I was like, nah, that's not my thing. I don't hunt. So I didn't think about it. Like, no. And did I think about having a handgun with me? No. Do I think about it now? When I see that video that you introduced me to of some dude getting stabbed, if I'm sitting in a restaurant, right, I don't have time to call 911 right now. And I also recognize that police are so afraid to do stuff, right? They don't rush necessarily for a 911 call anymore, and I kind of don't blame them. So I hate to say this, Rich. It goes against my grain. It almost feels like as citizens, we almost have to arm ourselves because there's so much weird, unprovoked, dangerous violence out there.
Crazy.
What's your thoughts, Rich?
My thoughts is this: at this stage of the game, I think that everyone has to take responsibility of their life.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I'm telling you, we have to go to the basics. I'm telling you, when things get this crazy, Jeff, I think we have to go through the basics and take responsibility of your life. You can't assume that you're gonna leave work,
Yeah.
go on the T, and then be home safely. You can't assume that anymore.
Not anymore.
You can't assume that you're gonna go to the Stop and Shop and come home safely. You can't assume that anymore. It's
Not
too,
anymore.
It's happening too often.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I felt pretty safe 2-3 years ago.
I did
But
too.
now, you know what I mean? When I go into Boston,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a I don't
Yeah.
have a radar that, you know what I mean?
That's
I can't
right.
detect someone just seeing me and just want to hurt me for no reason. I can't, how do you protect yourself from that?
That's right.
And the problem is this. Whoever have the element of surprise
Mm-hmm.
is going to win. So even if you carry the gun, Jeff,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to be able to pull it out before someone just stabs you in the neck for no reason. It's
That's right. That
impossible.
guy had no shot.
You understand what I'm saying?
That's right.
Like in order for you to protect yourself, you have to identify the problem. Like,
That's right.
see a guy like looking crazy, and then you could probably be ready,
That's
right?
right.
And then if he comes towards you, or if he's hurting other people, then now you have an opportunity.
That's right.
Okay. But if that surprise doesn't present itself,
Mm-hmm.
right? Say if it's just a surprise, all of a sudden he's on you.
That's right.
Your chances are very small for you to
That's right.
for you to win.
See, part of what I think we're talking about with the viewers today, Rich, is prevention.
Right.
And there's two kinds. There's the intelligent kind of prevention, which is there are certain parts of Springfield no one should go to at night. There's certain parts of Lawrence
Yes.
no one should go to at night.
Right,
There's
right,
certain
right.
parts of Boston no one should go to at
Right.
night. And that's a shame, but that's the reality.
That's
See,
the
there's
reality.
certain parts of Chicago
Right.
that if you say, hey, let's just for giggles,
Mhm.
let's just drive around this part of Chicago to see if we see some shit. Well, not only are you going to see some shit, you're probably increasing likelihood your increase of violent crime.
Right.
Let me put it out there. My guess is if you're driving through Weston,
You're fine.
probably don't have to worry about getting a drive-by shooting. The worst thing you have to get is a real drive-by nasty stare.
Well, drive-by insulting, maybe a middle finger. Or something.
Yeah, right. You might get that. But when we're in Western or in certain communities, Rich, we don't worry as much about violence. What I love what you're bringing up is it's that sneaky kind of violence that you can't see,
Yeah, you can't
which
see it.
is you're in a regular restaurant, you're on the T, or
Right.
you're walking in what seems like a safe neighborhood or a safe city, and some rando comes up to you completely unprovoked,
Right.
and next thing you know, you're in a hospital on a ventilator or worse.
So just to reiterate, okay, this is just to bring down the percentage of you, just the percentages.
Mm-hmm.
That's all this is, because it still can happen to you. But what you want to do is to make sure that your mind is not occupied on something else
It's
when
a
you're
great
out.
tip, Rich. That whole
Meaning
thing with the phone.
The cell phone, anything. Make sure that you just, you read your surroundings
Mhm.
accordingly. That's one. Two, mind your business.
Yes.
Mind
Yes.
your business, okay?
Mhm.
And that I'm talking about, and that'll help you out a lot. Number three, always, just if you see like a mirror while you're walking, you see a reflection, look who's behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Always try to be aware of who's behind you. Not that they're going to do anything, but just to be aware of this stuff. Again, now, this might not prevent any. Look, I could go to Boston tomorrow and get jumped, and I probably did all these things, but it will bring down the percentages
Mm-hmm.
of the chances of you being a victim. Because listen, at this day and age,
Mm-hmm.
Jeff, I hate to say it, we're all victims right now.
We sure are.
You know what I mean? I don't care who you are. I'm talking about Superman. Unless you're Superman, you might not be a victim. But other than that, we're all victims because you can't,
People are
just
afraid now, aren't
yeah,
they,
because
Rich?
you see a guy who looks normal,
That's right.
he walks right by you, you think nothing of it, and he stabs you in the neck. Like, that's just crazy.
Right. It's so amazing that we even have to talk about that as a reality,
It's
right? It
listen,
really is.
I'm on my, I'm on my alert when I feel, especially, I want my daughter to feel comfortable. So when we go into Boston, I want her to feel comfortable, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm worried.
Mm-hmm.
I can't lie because you can't see this kind of stuff.
No. And until we, do we lock up some people unjustly? We absolutely do. People smoking pot get locked up for 10 years. What a joke. And people could disagree with me on another one. But we got to start locking people up. Not, oh, we're going to give you a second chance, or we're so sorry about the excuse. People come up with their excuse. So I had a tough upbringing. My client had a tough upbringing, and so he didn't know right and wrong. No, they know right and wrong. And you know what? Until we start really hammering people
Right.
to be accountable.
Well, I'll say this to you. If you're a young man and you beat up an old man or old woman, you should be in jail forever.
And you know what?
I'm telling you, you can't do it.
If it's my old man or my old woman, they better hope the cops find them first.
But what's going to happen, Jeff?
Because I'll tell you right now, Rich, I abhor violence. I think violent people are weak in mind and spirit. The however is, you hurt mine, that's all I'll say. You hurt mine. Let me be real clear. And I know we talked about this in an earlier episode. That was the beautiful thing about my father. Loving, kind, gentle man. A gentle giant, actually. But he always made it clear, no one hurts my family.
Well,
no one hurts my
again,
family. And you know what's
we have
funny?
to stick together with our family.
We always felt safe with our father. I wonder how many children feel safe without their dads today. I wonder. I really do wonder. But Rich, you and I have known each other a long time. We've had some really serious and deep conversations, man, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. And I know another thing we have in common.
What's that?
We are fearless protectors of our children. We love our children. And we care about them so much that no one will hurt our children because they know they got to answer to us. I'll tell you, just as a quick aside, used to drive my daughters nuts, but I did it on purpose. And I know they appreciated it, even though they were a little embarrassed. Every time they were dating a dude in high school, I met them. And I'd pull the guy aside, and I'd say, hey, really nice to meet you. And I can count on you on two things. My daughter will always treat you with respect, and you will always treat my daughter with respect. If you don't treat my daughter with respect, and I used to say this with a big smile, I'm real happy to go back to jail. Hope you guys have a great night.
I got to follow up on the story because I didn't do something like that, but I did do this, and my daughter and I. Hopefully, she'll come on the show. It'd be kind of fun.
Wouldn't that be cool? We should bring our daughters on,
Yeah,
Rich.
that'd be fun.
That'd be a great chat.
So my daughter always wanted to go in the cul-de-sac by herself.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, you can do it. Cause I love saying yes, Jeff. I can't lie. I said, but the only way I'm going to allow you to do it is if you can get away from me. If you can get away from me, if you can escape away from me, right, then I'll let you do it. And she's like, I can get away from you. I grab her. She's like, Dad. I'm like, I can't move.
Point made.
I'm like, well, I guess you're not qualified
Yeah.
to go out into the cul-de-sac.
Point made.
Right? So what I'm saying, so I gave my daughter the tools, and I taught her. Okay, even to this day, like, I teach her, if you're going to get in a car with a whole bunch of people, or if it's a stranger, always go into the back passenger seat, across from the driver, because he's going to have a hard time to try to grab you, and the person in front of you has to turn all the way around. By that time, you're out the car. But I gave her some tools to use.
That's right.
You know what I mean? But that's love. That's, so my job with her is trying to prevent a situation. Because once the situation happens, now you're in damage mode now.
You're in cleanup mode, right?
Yeah, you're just,
God.
you're trying to,
God.
you're...
Like the 9-year-old girl got beat down now.
Now that's terrible.
Her dad is in cleanup mode.
Oh, I don't even know what I would do. I tell you something, I don't even know what I would do. That's why I don't even say, like I said, it's, we're in a world now that, as men, we just have to just shut up and just deal with it. Because if you react on your feelings, the whole world comes against you now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's almost like you have to do, it's just, you can't even be a human being anymore.
Yeah.
So that's on a different note. But
Well,
anyway.
I tell you, Rich, we'll close it with this. Bottom line, we hope you value watching Bros Who Knows. We hope you appreciate our form of edutainment, little education, a lot of entertainment. And I hope there's more men and fathers like Rich and I out there who love their children unconditionally, try to give them some life lessons, and understand to all of you out there, Rich and I will protect our children, and we hope you'll do the same. Hey, stay tuned for another episode next week. Have a wonderful week. Spring is next month. We love you. Take care.